The nightmare continues.
I am coming to you live with Joey, John, and two wonderful guests we have joining us tonight. Thank you so much, George and Dylan. Let's start.
So George, you covered FF7 Remake. Did you do a review for it, or what's up with that?
No, I did I did an article, an interview with Square Enix about it. But yeah,
dope.
I did that, and I had intentions to play the game. When it Intergrade specifically. Yeah, I had plans to play through Intergrade, but just a bunch of other stuff came up. I think Returnal came out like the week before.
Oh yeah.
So
it did. Yep.
So
Yep.
I was busy playing that. Yeah, and then Resident Evil Village came out as well. I know.
Yeah.
Wait, no. Intergrade came out in June. Okay, actually, let me take that back. I think Intergrade came out in June or something last year.
Cool. And Dylan, what about you, man? What's your experience with this game?
Yeah, I played like a couple Final Fantasies before getting around to 7. I picked up Final Fantasy 7 when Advent, like shortly after Advent Children came out, and like there was that whole like Final Fantasy 7's back, baby. So I rode the hype train. I think I got the game for like my 12th birthday. And yeah, I'm pretty fond of it. It's not my favorite, but it's comfortably in my top 5. It was the first one in the series I beat, so I guess it does have a special place in my heart for that reason. But yeah, I've played a little bit of the remake, but other games keep stealing my attention away from it, so I haven't really. It hasn't quite gotten its hooks in me quite yet. I think I want to say I left off in the sewers after Wall Market.
Oh yeah. Okay. So that's probably the worst part of the game. What about John though?
Maybe.
John is the important one here.
John's tired.
Last week on the show, we had someone who played Final Fantasy VII Remake first before they played Final Fantasy VII. It was a really interesting viewpoint to see like the opposite of what most of us felt, going from this to the 7R version of Wall Market and the Honeybee Inn and all that stuff, and getting a really, really fresh take on it. It was a really cool experience.
Yeah, I think like just because this game is so prolific, and just hearing everybody's takes on it and like experiences with it are always always really cool. And like I said before, it's like if you grew up in the 90s, you're probably gonna have the same kind of experience.
Speaking personally from my own experience, I feel like as I was just getting into the series, like so many people were talking about FF7 and so many people were excited about the PS3 remake. That was totally a real thing, you guys.
It was really real, alright guys?
Yeah, that it like, it was kind of built into this mythic status for me, and like when I finally picked it up, it wasn't quite what I expected, but it was still like, everything I wanted it to be, so...
Yeah, and what I want to touch.
George, would you like to be the guy taking all the directions for this place, this fine, reputable establishment?
Sure. This guy, the hey ladies?
Yeah, that's you, man.
The hey lady.
They're like, oh yeah, bro, you go down, it's an unmarked road, right? And then you'll take the second right, you'll hear a bunch of pit bulls just going nuts. You go down there, knock 3 times on the door, bring your equipment around back, and we'll get you set up. And you're just like, fucking excuse me?
Well, and it's funny too because it was a dive bar and it feels a lot like the vibe here. Yeah, so it was it was fun. It was a good experience. What a nice like first date. Not actually first date, but
I think my favorite is people's interpretations of no actual words, just like one of these.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah. Is that good?
It froze for a second.
It froze
It froze
Oh, damn.
perfectly.
My connection.
Oh, no.
but you're still here. What the hell?
Just the webcam's frozen.
I guess you could try turning it off and on again. I remember I played this game with my friends and we would do the voice thing as a kid, like a new playthrough. And I definitely remember naming Eris Penis. And I don't really know
Miss
why,
Penis?
but like this just hit me because it's like Miss.
All right, ladies. Line up in front of the Don.
Good, splendid. Now let's see. Which girl should I choose? Oh, this one. This slender little girl.
Oh, get clocked, Cloud.
Hey guys,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
got guests. We'll take real good care of you.
Every NPC in this.
This is all thanks to the big boss.
Hey, 3 cheers for Don Corneo!
Well, ladies, are we all ready?
Not good. And I hate the way that they like walk
Bad
at you
touch.
too. Like look at
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable
wanna-
myself.
Oh, I don't.
want the voice of the
Can you guys come over
Zombies.
here? I'll just all right. So you guys, listen. I mean, this is completely
Dude, look at
fine.
that!
Ah!
He's glitching out!
Oh my God.
This is completely unacceptable. I'm gonna need all of you to sit back down, and I need to tell you about Jesus. Because if you're at this point, if you're sitting in this place and you're trying to like come and walk at us like zombies, and you think it's gonna work, do I have to use this voice on you? Is this the kind of voice you'll listen to? Are you
George
fucking
Romero's
dirty
Final
pigs?
Fantasy VII. Hey, Don Romero.
Hey, come on, baby! Whoa, I got ants in my pants. Wanna do a dance? Gotta take a chance and maybe find romance.
Of course, my dear. I'll take you through it slowly, step by step. So come on.
Ooh.
No, stop! But just wait a second.
Come. Oh, I can't wait any longer. Here comes Papa.
Are those
Yeah.
dog food bowls on the ground? It's not right, but he was definitely blessed with like a fucking hog. Anyway. Alexa, turn the lights orange.
You know what's gonna happen? The plane will go ping, and everything's gonna go boom. Woohoo! Right?
And Pennsylvania or Ohio?
Alexa, can you pee on me? That's not what and I'm on a watch list. Thank you.
There's you completely invincible.
Invincible.
Yeah. So you love to see it.
Super RPG
Why
enemies,
does-
fuck you. Coming
Oh,
in here.
come on,
Super
Frank.
RPG friends enemies coming in here saying I hope you lose.
Yeah,
Oh,
well, you know-
come on. Come on.
Did you deserve it?
No.
I think you deserved it.
All right.
Tifa.
It's
Rival faction.
Tifa.
Tifa.
Oh, my bad. I was looking at the chat.
Okay, wait, hold on. I got a good
Ew.
question for you guys. What is the worst
Yes.
sewer in a JRPG or just an RPG in general?
Xenogears.
That
Xenogears.
fuck you.
That's a
Fuck
good.
you,
Oh, God
man.
damn it,
I'm just gonna say there's a theme on this show of people saying or thinking the exact same thing that I am, and there's always one person every episode who does it. And Dylan, you are like, we are synced up tonight.
Joe, excuse me, Joey. What clearly less important thing were you about to ask me about than the?
Well,
origin of
you
this?
know what? Nothing, Frank. I just
No,
think it's funny
please.
that you would just gloss over what I asked.
So, I know George also probably played it doing Star Ocean 6, and I know Joey loved it. But how did you guys feel about the mini game in Star Ocean 6? I actually never got the chance to play it.
Slowa.
Yeah, it's slower.
Yeah, I kind of skipped that one.
Joey,
Oh,
my man.
you guys. You know, okay, George, because you'll get this because you two are a Trails degenerate like myself. It's not as good as Vantage Masters or whatever it's called, but it's like, it's pretty sick. It's sort of like triple triad-y, where like, you know, you put something near something else and proximity affects things. But like you get busted fucking accessories from that. You guys,
Yeah,
you
you
guys
do.
slept.
Oh my god, there's some
You
good
guys
shit that
slept
you
on
can
it.
get. Sometimes I get them goddamn amiibos and they have effects that I'm just like,
The amiibos
yo,
are good.
holy
Okay,
shit.
so
Yeah,
slight. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so I didn't play the little mini game, but when Square Enix sent me my review code, they sent me like the deluxe edition, the digital deluxe, right? And it had those little figure accessories. One of them was like 160% like item drop rate increase.
Holy
Yep,
shit.
yep,
It was
Damn.
like it was
the hell?
insane.
Yes, somebody tries to goad Frank into quote unquote selling the speed ring. Like, okay, I don't really find Silent Hill scary anymore. Like, it's
I don't
definitely
really
eerie.
find Silent Hill scary. It's kind of pussies.
The Universal horror films like Bela Lugosi, Dracula, or Frankenstein, and Boris Karloff stuff in the 30s and 40s. Like, to me, that stuff isn't scary anymore. Like, I think it's aged well, but the datedness of it makes it a little bit less scary. And I think the same thing with Silent Hill. Like, it's definitely, like, for somebody who's never played it, yeah, sure. But, like, I don't know, like, it doesn't, like, polygons don't scare me anymore.
So I'll never forget when I got Silent Hill 4 The Room on PS2 growing up before my parents got divorced. That's very important. And my dad's like a corrections officer, so he's seen some shit. He's like a sergeant corrections officer, piece of shit kind of guy. I remember showing him the intro to that game, and he's just like, son, what the fuck are you playing?
No, I mean, speaking personally, I think they did a lot of good for Barret in this game. Like, they doubled down on a lot of his best qualities. But I feel like, you know, and obviously I have to take Tim Rogers' word for, like, how he reads in the Japanese version. But I guess it almost feels like we could have, you know, he didn't have to be Mr. T. I feel like Barret is a character... I feel like Barret is a character with like a lot of anger and pride, but I feel like, you know, the remake gets a little bit like Barret loves the sound of his own voice, and I don't really know if that ever really fit with my interpretation of the character.
Be careful. They're attacking from the helicopter.
But Barret, like, would kill me, man. I love Barret because, in the original, because, like, I feel like people do listen to him when he talks, right? And I feel like that's kind of I mean, like, Cloud goes like whatever, but to me, my read on Cloud has always been like, okay, you're making a good point. I just can't engage with it.
Yeah, I don't want to engage in
Right.
it. That's a good point.
You're too late. Once I push this button. So, folks, mission accomplished.
Does Reno sound like that kid who breathes behind Helga from Hey Arnold?
Ha ha. Only a Shinra executive can set up or disarm the emergency plate release system.
Cut your hole.
What are you gonna do with Eris?
I haven't decided.
T-sang is how you actually you heavy on the T. T-sang.
Ah, yes. T-Sang.
T-sang. And Kaluid.
I feel you, Rachel. Dude,
I
this
always
shit's
thought that
crazy.
newscaster looked like
Because
some
it is. There's straight up death. Like they don't
Yep.
you don't make this and you're like, wow, I saved everybody. You're like, I still, there's an entire community of people who just fucking died. You know.
Yep.
You don't manage to make it out unscathed here, and I think that's really cool that they did that.
Well, the game does, like, okay, it's a little bit more subtle about how it conveys that information to you, right? Because, like, it doesn't, like, beat you over the head with it. And, like, you know, you contrast this with the way it happens in Remake, and I feel like Remake does a really good job of, like, building that out a little bit, because you hear, like, NPC dialogue while you're running through it. But it also kind of softens the blow a little bit. Like, there's not as much collateral damage.
But you go through the whole thing where you get to know Jesse's entire area
Right,
of
yep,
living.
yep.
So, like, I feel like in 7, I think this hits even harder because you spend a lot more time getting to know the people in the area and stuff like that. So like, I
Yeah.
definitely agree that they kind of play it up a little bit less. But if you do your due diligence, I think that this is like, in Remake, this is a really fucking harrowing situation.
Yeah.
Because you can go back into those towns, at least the ones around it, and they're just like, I've lost everything. Everything is destroyed. Everything is gone. Like, we don't have anything left.
Yeah, I think that's the implication with some of the NPC dialogue here, but you really feel it a lot more. Thank you for not having me scream Marlene, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I got you.
you needed a break after being possessed by Satan, so I understand.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I will say that like there's despite like some of the remakes like pulling of punches with certain consequences that happen in the game, I do think, and this just came to me, so I'm sorry for just blurting it out, but there's like an interesting braiding of what happens in the original versus what happens in the remake, and it's like elements in the remake almost serve to prop up elements in the original, and even though like there's that storied argument about like, oh, a remake doesn't change the original, even though whatever, the FF7 remake's a little different because it's more of like a sequel or whatever, but like, yeah, it doesn't change the original, but it does kind of like in a weird meta contextual way run parallel with both games run parallel with each other and support each other. They're like the they're also playing liberal arts teacher who's very supportive with one another, and I think that's interesting. I might just be reading too much into that because I'm a big fan of the game and both games really, but I think like there's a niceness to be able to sort of cherry pick the things that you like from each games and create this weird like mosaic of all the different plot developments and color of both games. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too positive.
I would agree with that. I definitely think that like, Final Fantasy VII Original is a game that's about like a lot of different things, and I feel like Final Fantasy VII Remake specifically, I cannot speak for part 2 or 3 or whatever.
Yeah.
But like Final Fantasy VII Remake is about Final Fantasy VII. And it does feel kind of reflective in a way. And that's one of the things I really like about it. But it's also, I have mixed feelings on it, honestly. But I think on the whole, kind of taking that time to try to re-examine Final Fantasy VII from angles that we might never have seen it from before, I do think there's merit and value in that.
For me, like Final Fantasy VII Remake, for me, the way I look at that is that it is a group of people trying to recontextualize and elaborate on one of the most beloved pieces of RPG history in the history of the genre. I don't agree with every single thing that they did in it, but I fucking love 7R. Like, I thought it was an absolutely amazing experience. I in my opinion, as someone who like, I think that Final Fantasy VII in the entirety of Final Fantasies falls kind of in the like the high mid territory. I think that they elevated the experience far beyond what it originally reached. And a lot of times people will be like, oh, you don't think like Final Fantasy VII's like a top tier Final Fantasy RPG? I'm like, no, it's a high tier, it's like a high mid tier, and a high mid tier Final Fantasy is still worlds better than a lot of RPGs. I'm not taking away from the game by saying that, but yeah. I don't know, that's how I am about it. I see that they're really trying to elaborate on one of the most beloved parts of RPGs of all time, and that's what I focus on in terms of Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah, I think Dylan brought up a really good point about recontextualizing, because I feel like there's, it's funny because I just said that comment about like how remakes don't affect the original, but it's a little different in the context of FF7 because, again, not quite a remake, right? More of a sequel.
What do you guys think about Crisis Core and Rebirth next year?
I have never played Crisis Core, so I'm honest to God really excited to play the remake of Crisis Core and get a bit more, because I know, you know, PSP stuff, there's only so much you can do on PSP, and I often hear people qualming about the combat with like the slot machine and stuff in Crisis Core. So I'm really excited to be able to actually play it myself. Like that, I'm super pumped about that.
Right. Okay.
What about you, man? What's your? I want to hear about what you think about that.
So I did not play Crisis Core either. So I'm very interested to see how it actually turns out.
So